or should I say, of having a speaker, Mr. Jimmy Agbaji. So, the whole thing is welcome, happy welcome, Mr. Jimmy Agbaji.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think I should be thanking those who have organized this. The way I'll start is to look at our country, Nigeria, 56. We're all grumbling. Nobody's happy with Nigeria. And when you look back, 1960, at least history, will tell you that you had the developed world, you had the developing world. There was a time you had democracy, or you had, in the developed world, they've been running their democracy. In the developing world, we've had success stories of strong leaders, we've had success stories of dictatorships in the last 56 years. Nigeria has had dictatorship, has had civil rule, and you ask yourselves, what is not working in this our situation? Again, I'm talking about the developing world. Let's leave the developed world. You have the Chinas of this world, dictatorship, but they've managed to get out of it, and they're a very strong economy. You have countries like Singapore, strong leadership, and they were able to come out of it. You have even Museveni's Uganda that is doing well, strong leadership. In Nigeria, we have had, like I've said, military dictatorship. We've had civilian rule, and it's still not working. It's not working like we want it to work. And I think the question is, for me, I think I've been more involved in the last 12 years. Well, no, what am I saying? Well, 12 in terms of actively getting into the nitty-gritty of it. I'll give you my story very briefly, but that will be later. Let me just say that when they spoke to me and I said, oh, I will come. I will come because there's something missing, why it's not working, or why we have not been so lucky like those other countries. You see, it's either you are blessed to have the right leadership that takes it upon itself and goes, or you're not so lucky to have that leadership, but you make it go. And I think I liken it to your cars. You have a mechanic. If you have a damn good mechanic and you take your car to him, you probably feel free to drop the car, go to work, or go anywhere else and come and pick your car. If you have a mechanic that is not so good, you are likely to sit with him and guide him or make sure that he doesn't mess up and stay with him. And I think that's the way Nigeria is. So the Lee Kuan Yews were good mechanics. They didn't need supervision by the citizenry. So they led. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, our mechanics have not been so good. But we that own the vehicle have also allowed them to run the vehicle or to treat the vehicle as they like. And so what is missing in our situation is the part of the citizens' participation, that we're allowing so much to happen that is affecting us. And we still keep asking, what can we do? How is Nigeria going to be better? My own message today is that for as long as we're having the kind of mechanics that you do not leave alone, then we have to sit with these mechanics. And that's where we're all coming. And introducing yourselves, what came to me was how I found myself in politics. It wasn't something planned. It wasn't something I ever thought I would ever do. In fact, those who knew me were like, and they still ask me, Jimmy, you mean you can really get into this? And I say, yes. It doesn't take much to do it. So I'll give you my own story because of the kind of sitting and the kind of arrangement you have here, because it reminds me of how I started. And I'm not here to say come into politics. Please don't get me wrong. That's not my essence. I'm only saying that there are roles that everybody can play to make sure that that mechanic repairs the vehicle properly. In 1993, I believe that was the Abiola Tofa election. I was a very young man and looked at the two people who were running for president. And I looked at them as government contractors, both of them. Abiola was making money from government. Tofa was a government businessman. And I said, oh, nothing's going to happen. And I wasn't interested. But then, on the day they had their debate, I wasn't even going to listen to the debate because like I said, I had no interest. But I was around to watch the debate. And it was so clear that night that one didn't even have a clue as to what he was going to do there. And this other one, at least, was speaking well. So I said, okay. And I said, even though I didn't trust both of them, but this one must not be president of my country. And so on election day, I know we went partying the night before. It was a Saturday. I was a young man, or younger man. I'm still a young man. And we went partying, and I said I was going to vote. I didn't have my bath. I went to vote. And Nigeria went to vote. And then, of course, as you all know, the elections were annulled. For me, I never played student union politics. I have a pharmacist there. I'm sure she'll tell you that it's not very easy to play politics on campus and play and study pharmacy. So I was never interested in student union politics or anything. But you know, when it was annulled, I felt, personally that I had been slapped. It's like, I went, I voted. So many voted, north, east, west, and one person just said, damn you all. And I just felt like I was slapped. And then the question was, how can we allow this to happen? What do we do? What do we do? Then came up concerned professionals. And this was led, it was a group. You had Atedo Peterside, you had Patutomi, and quite a number. And so we came together and said, concerned professionals, we were going to object. But we're going to object in the way we understood how to object. That was by blowing grammar, by writing articles, by doing paid adverts and all, by articulating our opposition to it. But you know, it wasn't only us that then started to oppose. Because when concerned professionals started, different groups joined. You had former PAMSECs, former civil servants, former ambassadors. People came out openly to protest. Well, at that time, we thought that alone would force the hand of government. But it didn't. And so, some went back to their businesses. Some were like, these people, they want to kill us. So I'm not doing it again. Some were, my job does not allow me to expose myself. So different reasons. And so the number kind of shrunk. Well, I was in the private sector. I was running my own business. Nobody was going to sack me from my work. So I continued. And so continued with the resistance, marched on the streets, joined the Taisho Lanris, the Wole Soyinkas. I wasn't a lawyer. When the lawyers were going to protest at the High Court, at the court, I joined them in the protest. They tear gassed us and all. So that was it. And we went on. Of course, my friends were like, Jimmy, are you crazy? I think I remember a particular day, the day we had to walk from Yaba, Taisho Lanris, and Wole Soyinka was actually the one that was going to lead the walk from Yaba bus stop to race course. And I said I was going to join the walk. Nobody, I wasn't, in fact, that was just me as a person. And my wife said she too was going to join. I said, yeah, let's go. So we went. We drove the car to Yaba. When we got to Yaba, I then looked at her and I said, come. We have young children at home. Two of us. if they shoot us or they tear gas us here, what's going to happen to these babies? I think it's better you go home. Leave me to march. So we marched. I walked to Lagos. It was an experience for me. Like I said, time is not our friend. But to say that, I said, let's go. And I learned so much on that walk. Taishonari died, I think, about 2 or 3 days after that walk. But, so it went on, and friends were like, especially my good friends, what is your problem? Jimmy, you have made your point. Go and face your business. And I said, no. We're going to see the end. And of course, you had Abacha, and he was like, no. And people, I mean, if you read history, the 5 leprous hands, even the political parties that were set up had decided that only Abacha can be their presidential candidate. Everybody was fighting to make him presidential candidate. But there were still some of us who were saying, mm-mm. And he was like, you can't do anything about this man. He has come to stay. And I said, no, he cannot come to stay. He will go. Anyway, we didn't take him away. God took him away. On the day God took him away, of course, he was like, you mean Abacha can die? I say he's dead. And we had, I think, about 3 or 4 of us met in the evening, just because it was like, what's happening? There was just this vacuum. And we saw them deciding how to carry him for burial, whether to put him in the plane or to put him in the hold of the plane. That was the head of state, the president, going for burial late in the night. So we sat down. And these my friends, these 3, 4 friends of mine, were like, how did we allow this to happen? It was like all of a sudden, how did we allow such a thing to happen in this country? And they said, so what can we now do about it? Jimmy, you are the one that has been in this thing. And I said, we can bring ourselves together because we have the network of powerful young men like us at that time that can make change possible in our country. And we decided that night, like I said, there were just 3, 4 of us, and we drew up a list of people that would call to the first meeting and brought them together. And we called the meeting, and we had this meeting, I think we were about 20. And we said, democracy is coming. What are we going to do about it? We must never have what we have just been saved from. And because we're all professionals like you, no interest in governance, no interest in politics, said, okay, what can we do? I said, we can influence those that are going to occupy office. We can influence those that are going to occupy office. How do we do that? We say, well, we have brains, so we can articulate positions for those who want to occupy, those we believe would be good ambassadors to occupy office. We had money. Don't forget, this was before, at that time, oil was $9 a barrel. And in any case, during Abacha, everybody was broke. So you didn't have money like we have today, money all over the place. So our own resources could influence positively one way or the other if we put them together. We had MDs of banks, we have, like I said, just like you here. And so we formed that group. And we decided that the group would not even have a name and would not even have a face. In other words, it wasn't about selling ourselves. It was about ensuring that things worked better. Of course, because we're all in Lagos, our first emphasis was on Lagos. But we supported outside Lagos. Even at that time, even the President Obasanjo came to us because he got to know about the group and addressed us and said he needed our support and all that. So we went that far in 1999. Now, from that group still exists till today. Like I said, doesn't have a name, doesn't have any face. We know ourselves. still exists today. But I can tell you that that group learned lessons or has learned lessons along the way. The first lesson it learned was that it's okay to be a kingmaker. But that's all you can be. Once you have made the king, you can't do anything. You can do very little to make the king do what you think he should do. And so some of us then said, okay, we'll take the next step. Because the question or the arguments that came up was, look, Mr. Governor, why are you doing this? You can do it like this. And it's like, hey, you to come and do it, you think it's easy. I say, yes, we can do it. So that's how you found Jimmy Agbaje jumping into the ring in 2007. But we've produced senators, we've produced chairmen of local governments, that group I'm talking about. What I'm getting at is that we didn't know we were going to get this far. And there's still many of us who have been in the background, have supported financially, cerebrally, and all that. And it's continued to work. So the question is, the lesson that has been learnt again from people like us that have been in the ring is that Nigeria does not yet have that critical mass that is required to make this mechanic work or work on this engine the way it should work. And so we need to get more people involved, not necessarily to come and join the political party, but to sit down as groups, as cells, and decide what their own interest is. I was outside there, I was talking about bring back our girls. Obi Ezekwesili, we've been in the struggle, and you know, when she started, I said, this we don't know that this lady is not going to give up, because we have been in the trenches together. If there are 10 people left in BBOG, she will be one of those 10. So what I'm getting at is, BBOG says, my own is that these girls, you must find them. And you continue to make sure that those in government do not sleep. That is the priority for BBOG. There are those whose priorities will be Lagos state governance. There are those whose priorities will be Etios and local government. There are those whose priorities will be Nigeria. There are those whose priorities will be minerals or whatever. But we must encourage everybody to come together and say, we're not just going to sit down and watch. Because the truth is that nothing's going to happen. We've had, at a time they said, okay, our presidents were not graduates. They didn't go to school. Then we had graduate. We have had graduate. We have had Muslim. We have had Christian. We have had the one that didn't go to school. We have had the one that went to school. We will have the one that we don't know whether has school or doesn't have school. But what I'm getting at is, it has not changed anything. And let truth be told, it's not about which party. Everybody is the same. Whatever the party, take it from me. But the political class remains the political class. The person they catch is the thief. That's how we say it. But don't let anybody fool you that some people are not stealing where they are. Again, it's not about partisan politics. That's not what I'm here about. I'm only saying that we, this constituency of yours, should be very clear. You cannot be effective in working or in ensuring that that mechanic works properly if you do not have the knowledge and if you do not have the skills. And I'll explain. The knowledge you have by your education, by your exposure, by your work and everything, that you have. In other words, if I say, let's sit down, where are the finance people? Why is Nigeria not working in terms of finance? I'm sure we'll get brains here that will give us solutions. If I ask about IT, telecoms, I'm sure we'll get position papers that will be fantastic. But then, the skills, how do we bring it about? There's so many position papers. How do we bring it about? And these are things that you are going to have to look at. That you don't bring about these skills if you don't understand how government works. You think that the man in office is thinking about you because that's why he went to office. I will tell you that in 7, 8 out of 10, you are the last person they are thinking about. So your first assumption is already faulty. So when you write all those position papers and you say, Mr. Governor, or Mr. President, or Mr. Chairman of local government, I have a fantastic thing to give you as to how to make this your job better. He says, thank you very much. The moment you step out, he throws your document away because that's not what it's there for. Many people have come to this country to say, give us land, we will build house. You don't worry, just give us land. And many have gone away and wondered, why is it so difficult to give us land when we're going to use our money to build and there'll be more housing? But the truth is that the person that's going to give you land is saying, come, what's in it for me? If there's nothing in it for me, to hell with those who want houses. That's where the skills come in. The skill that, it doesn't just work. It's not one-on-one, making two. So how do we convince this person in government to take this proposal? Is there a way we can make it work? So you need the skills. And the only way you can get those skills is by coming together, by talking about things, by engaging government at different levels so that you are learning. This group I talked about, we formed a subgroup of that group and spent a lot of money in 2000. Got professionals and paid a lot of money to give position papers on different aspects of governance. The documents were this high, not in the IT. The IT wasn't so much. The documents were that high, and I'm not exaggerating. And we gave it to some governments. But that's where it ended. So we also learned a lesson that, it's not about the position papers you write. You must know how to make sure that those position papers come to fruition. As they say, there's a science to delivery. If you don't have it, then it's going to hang down. You're going to be frustrated. It's an interactive session. I believe I've run my 15 minutes. Time goes very fast when you are talking, especially with an audience like this. But I want to just summarize and say, basically my message before we get into the interactive session is, one, we all agree that Nigeria is not working as it should, and that over the years the lessons learned, some of it, or one of it is, it is because we as participants are not yet doing what we should do. That some countries are blessed with having the right leadership. But when you don't have the right leadership, then you must mark the leadership. And that is where citizens come in. How we can mark the leadership in a way that will get to our desired goal. That's very important. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. Definitely not easy. But when you start it, you never know where it's going to end. The most important thing is that you are committed to it. But the results will come. They may not come as well as you want, but they'll come. But if you don't do anything, there'll be no result. And that's where we are. That the majority, those that have the capacity to bring about positive results in our country, are relatively docile, believing that it is beyond them, or not even knowing how they can be a part of it. Now, I won't go into how we can be a part of it. All I'm going to say is to wake you up and say, everybody has a role. You don't have to run for office, but there's always a role. I've given an example, a personal example, of how I have come to where I am. And there's still many people in that group who will never, ever join me at a campaign or anything, but they're right there behind. We meet on a monthly basis, so they're also informed about what is going on. Again, we're not informed. When I say we, I'm not saying you as persons. So sometimes I'm reading WhatsApp and reading the social media, and I laugh that these people don't know. They are seeing the other side, the back of the book, the real inside. They don't know. So we have to be informed. And that's what I'm talking about. Knowledge, I'm talking about skills.
Thank you.